How much does rent cost in Inazuma 11 2?
Homework, and I was like,
Not as much as you'd think. And to be honest, I'm not even gonna act like I'm surprised at the result. Imagine being a landlord at this time and having to sit there and helplessly watch a kid with green diarrhea for hair absolutely decimate your entire property portfolio. But what perplexes me the most is not the fact that people live here, but the fact that people choose to work here. I can assure you that being a quality assurance tester for flashbangs is less detrimental to your health. Like, imagine working here as a referee. Thank God Inazuma 11 takes place in Japan. If this series took place in London or anywhere in America, one bad call and a ref is catching a natural disaster to the dome. Alright, so let's get down to business. According to this Reddit post I found, Inazuma 11 2 takes place between October to early December 2008. I'm just gonna take this at face value and not fact check it, cause this video doesn't need to take any longer than it already is, and you know. According to the Inazuma 11 games, Inazuma Town is located in Tokyo, so we'll be using that as our point of reference to start. According to Google, in October 2008, the average rent per square meter for a condo in Metro Tokyo was around 3,232 yen per square meter. Fun fact, Google states that while the average rent remained high in October, it began a downward trend shortly after. Huh, I wonder why. Oh, when searching for the average condo size in Japan for 2008, I got 64 square meters as my result. They actually ended up losing the screenshot of this, so here's a screenshot of 2014 being 64.25. I almost messed up and used 66 square meters, but 66 square meters is the current average condo size in Tokyo. So yeah, I almost had to re-record the entire video. So we can do 3,232 yen multiplied by 64 to give us 206,848 yen. Which, to put into perspective, not including inflation if we just use today's current exchange rates, would be £1,040 and 3 pence, €1,206 and 75 cents, or $1,416.13. Obviously, this is a higher value than what it would actually be in real life, since I don't believe Inazuma Town will be considered Metro Tokyo. And obviously a metro area is more often than not going to have a higher rent than a non-metro area. As well as 64 being the average, meaning that some condos will be a smaller size than this, meaning their rent will cost less. But we're going to use this number anyway for now because I do not care. As I've probably shown quite a few times already in this video, some fuck shit was going on during Inazuma 11 2, and for those of you who don't know, fuck shit affects the cost of rent. Let's list some of the things that took place in Inazuma 11 2, shall we? Domestic terrorism, attempted murder, child endangerment, property damage, more child endangerment, coercion, exploitation, assault, assault with a deadly weapon, potentially actual murder. But yeah, you probably get the point by now. Tokyo is known for its low crime rate and high level of safety for citizens, which contributes to somewhat stable rent prices. So finding concrete percentages to use was quite hard, and I don't know why, but Google kept suggesting me shit that I just did not search for. But what I did find, even though it does depend on the type of crime, location, and a bunch of other factors, is that a 10% increase in crime can potentially lead to a 1.5% decrease in property value, which also leads to a relatively similar percentage decrease in rent rates in the same area. And here's where the problems begin to start. It is virtually impossible to pinpoint the exact number of crimes that took place during Inazuma 11 2. And you could argue the same for Inazuma 11 1 and 3, due to a large volume of said crimes taking place off-screen and behind the scenes, as well as some of it being referred to as smoke, mirrors, and just special effects. And me personally, I don't buy that shit. I think it was just a convenient excuse all the kids at Sunshine Academy were told to not get sentenced to life in prison. But back to the point. If I was to comb through every episode and look at every crime that took place, it wouldn't actually showcase the full scope and represent the scale accurately. So what do I do here? I don't know. After a lot of considering and thoughts, I've just decided that I'm going to use the bare minimum You and I both know that it was way more than a 10% increase in crime between Inazuma 11 1 and 2. I'd argue it was somewhere along the lines of an 100% increase, maybe even more. But since we don't have concrete values, this does seem like the best course of action going forward. So, if we assume it's a 10% increase in crime, then the cost of rent will be dropping by 1.5%. So if we do 206,848 yen multiplied by 0.015, we get 3,102.72. Then we take that away from the original value, which gives us 203,745.28 yen. And to put it into perspective, if we use the exchange rates of today's day and age and don't factor in inflation, it would be about £1,023.82, $1,382.96, or €1,181.63. We're gonna put an asterisk as well as a less than sign on these numbers to indicate that we use the lowest plausible value as an estimate, since a concrete value for this isn't actually attainable unless Hino himself comes out and says something. But for those of you wondering, if we did assume it was a 100% or more increase, then the cost of rent would be dropping by 15% minimum, which would give us a rent value of less than or equal to 175,820.76 yen, which is less than or equal to £883.50, $1,193.42, or €1,019.68, factoring in the same things I said before. But we're not actually done yet, we're missing one teeny tiny little detail. Domestic terrorism can and will negatively impact rent and property costs, with areas closer to the destruction seeing more severe shifts in price. For example, following some acts of terrorism in 2005, commonly referred to as the tube bombings, London experienced a 6% decrease, as well as Manchester seeing drops between 9 to 14%. The higher end of this was mainly seen in areas that were transit hubs. The impact mainly stems from people not wanting to live in an area where they feel unsafe and at risk. I do joke around a lot in my videos, but this specific topic is pretty serious and is currently affecting people around the world. If you'd like to help people in need currently going through crisis, there will be a link in the description. So let's get down to the math. I'm not going to use the 6% or the 9 to 14%, I'm actually going to combine both and use 20%. The level of destruction we saw was, I'd like to call it unprecedented, but it's Inazuma 11, so I'm somewhat hesitant to actually say that. But it was unprecedented at the time. I do think the sheer level of destruction would result in a lot more than just a 20% decrease, but again, I've already taken a bit of a liberty using 20%. However, you could argue that this entire thought process is dumb as fuck since I'm trying to use real life examples and statistics to calculate the cost of fictional rent. So we left off on 203,745.28 yen. So with the 20% decrease, we get less than or equal to 162,996.224 yen, which is less than or equal to £819.06, €945.31, or $1,106.37. And for those of you wondering about how this would have panned out if we used the 100% increase in crime rate, we left off on less than or equal to 175,820.76 yen. And before someone comments here, I know that there's no decimal point in yen, I'm just leaving it in for accuracy's sake. So if we decrease that by 20%, we get less than or equal to 140,656.608 yen, which is less than or equal to £706.80, or €815.75, or $954.74. I mentioned earlier that we were using stats based on Metro Tokyo, and I do not consider Inazuma Town as part of Metro Tokyo. I'd consider it more of a suburb. And I did a bit of research, and rent in Metro Tokyo can cost 1.5 to 1.6 times more than rent in the suburbs. So if we divide 162,996.224 yen by 1.6, we get less than or equal to 101,872.64 yen, which is £511.91, €594.32, and $691.48. And for those of you wondering about how it would have turned out if we used the 100% crime rate increase, we would have gotten 87,910.38 yen, which is £441.75, €512.87 and $596.71. To put this into perspective, according to my calculations and all the bullshit I've just spat at you for the past however many minutes, this is a decrease of slightly over 50%, 50.75% to be exact. So, overall, the average rent in Inazuma Town around the time of the Alias arc was pretty low in comparison to what it would have been otherwise, such as in Orion or Ares. And I mean, if prestige points are relative to yen, by the time you're in the post-game of Inazuma 11 2, you'd probably have enough to rent out a condo for a month, maybe longer. Hey, and if you want to help me pay my rent, you can click that join button down there and buy a membership for 99 pence. And a massive thank you to Kaiku, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, for doing the thumbnail for this video. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. I don't even know what the next video is going to be, but I'll see you in that video.